No, no, just say morning. Is everything okay, or is it less people than usual?
It's
Maybe.
dropping off. It's a nice room, but it's a little bit too big.
To be, yeah. The one where we're gonna have the side event is much better.
Yeah.
I was there. I thought, yeah. I mean, here with all this crowd, it will look packed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, my deputy director, she's there. She's sitting close to Mark.
Okay.
Pin, she's a nice.
didn't
It's a
realize
pity
it was
she's
her.
not my director. And she should be the director.
I mean, I felt very reassured when she started. I didn't realize first when we were introduced that it was her until after we started speaking. But
Because then
now
I
I'm
always say,
completely
because I didn't even know, I always say PIN. I just discovered when I saw the email address. Nobody call her. No, she's really nice. Very happy.
it was there for the
HIV
it's a very
extremely strong.
Okay, should we get started?
We have to go.
Distinguished delegates, good morning to all. The committee is called to order. We shall now take up agenda item 3, strategy for strengthening social protection in the implementation of 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific. Under the agenda item, the committee will seek to identify strategy for developing comprehensive and inclusive social protection system, sharing concrete country examples, and to explore options for strengthening regional cooperation to close social protection gaps. To guide our discussions, you should leave before you the document ESCAP/CSD/2018/3 entitled Social Protection as a Means for Achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Under the agenda item, an introductory video presentation prepared by the Secretariat will be screened. After the video, the Secretariat will make a presentation which will be followed by the interactive panel discussion on strategy for strengthening social protection in Asia and the Pacific. Delegations wishing to deliver country statements on agenda item 3 are invited to do so in the final segment of this agenda item after the panel discussion, while the floor will be open to the plenary during the panel discussion for questions and answers. All interventions during the Q&A should be in response to the panel discussion only. Delegations wishing to make a statement under this agenda item are kindly requested to register with the conference officers and to provide them with a copy of the statement. To facilitate our consideration of agenda item 3, it is now my pleasure to invite the Secretariat to screen a video on social protection in Asia and the Pacific. It is now my pleasure to invite Mr. Patrick Anderson, Officer in charge of the Social Development Division of ESCAP, to provide an overview of the important social protection play in reducing poverty and social exclusion, while also building more inclusive society. Please.
Thank you, Chair, and a very good morning to you all. I'm just waiting for it to load. Okay. Distinguished delegates, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to give you a brief overview of Agenda Item 3, Strategies for Strengthening Social Protection in the Implementation of the 2030 Agenda on Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific. The focus of this presentation will be on the role of social protection plays for overall development in reducing poverty. I'm sure we can all agree that investing in social protection is a strategy to tackle poverty and vulnerability. It's a powerful tool for reducing inequalities and building resilience against shocks, crises over the life cycle. Social protection is, however, not only an investment in people, it also drives economic growth by building stronger, healthier, and more productive workforce. Every dollar invested in social protection also multiplies by up to 2.4 when cash enters the community. However, building inclusive social protection system requires that programs reach those who need the support when they need it, and that the benefits are adequate for meeting the basic needs of people. Between 1990 and 2016, over 1.1 billion people, or 80% of the extreme poor in the Asia-Pacific region, moved out of poverty. In China alone, more than 700 million people left extreme poverty. Excuse me. Despite this great progress, 1.2 billion people still live on less than $3.20 a day, out of which 400 million live in extreme poverty at $1.90 a day. Also, 60% of all people in the region lack access to affordable health care, while 50% of all households are relying on unclean fuels, and close to 1 in 3 lack access to basic sanitation. The region's relatively low levels of investment in people is a key explanation for this situation. So how much is the region spending on social protection? Well, the average spending level on social protection as share of GDP in OECD countries averaged 21%. For the world, the average is 11.2%, while in Asia-Pacific developing countries, the average is only 3.7%. That's a third of the global average. This underinvestment is the reason why 60% of the region's population has no protection if they turn sick, develop a disability, become unemployed, or even pregnant or getting old. You also saw in the video that we gave a number of examples that I will not repeat here. In our new report, The Social Outlook for Asia Pacific, Poorly Protected, that the Executive Secretary launched yesterday, we estimate that if spending on social protection would reach the global level of 11.2% of GDP by 2030, the impact on poverty would be striking. At least 233 million people would be lifted out of moderate poverty by 2030. Extreme poverty would also be eliminated in several countries that would otherwise not eradicate poverty by 2030, including Bangladesh, India, Nepal, and the Philippines. The time is opportune for countries to come together and to collaborate around social protection. As was mentioned yesterday by several delegates, we have agreements and frameworks on disability, on gender, on aging, on population, and on migration, but there's no regional framework for social protection. So in addition to learn about your planned and ongoing national measures to strengthen social protection, we're also looking forward to your deliberations and guidance on the following 2 areas. Namely, 1, how a UN-wide framework on social protection could best support countries as a platform for sharing of experience towards the realization of the Sustainable Development Goal. And number 2, what our future research here at the Secretariat should be in terms of policy support, capacity building, and, as I said, analytical work. Here I'm just showing you some promotional, a slide of promotion of our most recent publications, and these you've seen, they're also on the table outside. And this completes my presentation. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anderson, for your presentation. Distinguished delegates, we will now proceed with the panel discussion on strategy for strengthening social protection in the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in Asia and the Pacific. The distinguished members are drawn from governments in our region. The discussion will be moderated by Mrs. Papanuda Bunpala, Deputy Regional Director, ILO, Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific. I would also like to remind delegates that country statements are on agenda item 3 will follow after the panel discussion. I invite Mr. Bunpala to introduce the distinguished panelists and initiate the panel discussion. Mr. Bunpala, the floor is yours, please. So we can
go. Good morning. Thank you, Chair. The Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to invite panelists to join me. We have Dr. Pandup Sering, Director General, Department of Medical Services, Ministry of Health of Bhutan. So please join me. Ms. Chat Leng Chanchaya, Director of Legal Affairs, Department of General Secretariat for National Social Protection Council from Cambodia, ma'am, please. Ms. Vivi Yulaswati, Director for Social Protection and Welfare, Ministry of National Development Planning of Bappenas, Indonesia. Please, ma'am, join us. And last but not least, Ms. Kansetsek Sendayus, Director of Department of Policy, Implementation and Research, General Authority for Social Insurance from Mongolia. Ma'am, please join us. Thank you. You have heard this morning the introduction by Chairperson, also the video presentation, and also the presentation by Mr. Anderson from the ESCAP that over the last few decades, countries in Asia-Pacific region have already made significant economic progress. But at the same time, they also have made efforts to work on social protection policies and programs. Clearly, there are some examples, positive examples that we are going to discuss this morning. But what is important before we get into the conversations is that while many progress have been made in our region, the challenges are still huge. I don't want to repeat any statistics that have already been presented by Mr. Anderson, and also some of them have been already covered in the video which has been presented to us. But what is important is that in the context of the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, it's very important that we keep in mind that we have to work towards leaving no one behind. And here, most probably, we have a lot of work to do as we go ahead in the future. The Sustainable Development Goal has target 1.3. It really highlights the importance of social protection, including social protection floors. And this is really, really important that we have to work towards that goal. So as mentioned already earlier, that the commitment to social protection is not only a commitment on social justice and redistribution, but it is really central element of economic transformation and an important boost for economic development and the engine of growth itself. It is therefore, for this panel today, we are really happy that we have time to share some concrete examples, the country examples that we will go through in the next 1 hour or so. It's very important that there are two questions that have been already raised by Chairperson and also Mr. Anderson, is about how we can enhance social protection systems, the strategies that we have to work together. But equally important is that how can we enhance regional cooperation, which could support country-level efforts better together. So it's around our partnership as we go forward. Without too much of a further introduction, I'd like to inform our panelists that we have 2 issues to discuss together. We will go one by one. And each panelist will have, say, 7 minutes on each of the questions. I know that I'm stingy with time, but this is not my fault. This is the way the committee is structured, that we really have about 1 hour for this session. So the first round of questions. The first question is to Madame Kansasek from Mongolia. We know that Mongolia is known for having developed a very comprehensive series of social protection programs, both contributory and non-contributory, which have provided coverage over the life cycle. I think this is really important development because it also includes a flagship child money program. The flagship child money program, I think, is quite important because it provides cash benefit for all children under the age of 18. So clearly, this is huge steps. So if you can share with us, ma'am, what steps did your government take to ensure first political commitment at all levels, but also how did the government successfully mobilize the resources to finance these programs? Yeah, thank you. Go ahead. 7 minutes, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. In Mongolia, we have too many types of social welfare. There are 72 types of social welfare, and including in this child money program. We are implementing this program from 2011. Of the expenditure to social welfare consists 46% of the expenditure we spent it to child money program. At 2018, this program will covered by about 920,000 children. At 2017, we spent 470 billion to the social welfare services, of which 15.5% it is a cash transfers. We have some new law. This is law on allowances by the family members and household with many children. The purpose of the law, it so regulated relation concerning the issue of pregnant women mothers carrying child under the age of 3, mother and fathers with twin under the age of 4, and single parents with 3 or more children. This is family program. A budget in 2018, we have 96 and 8 billion tugrik. Single parents household 15.8 billion tugrik from the state budget. The measures of the child money, we have from 2011, from the state, from the Human Development Fund, from the 216 years, this will, from the state budget, all the child under 18 years old age, sorry. We have a child money program is that every month give to the child, every month 20,000 tugrik. It means about $8 US. I have too many challenges in Mongolia for social welfare protection. There are the coverage of social welfare service is too wide. Or state is providing welfare for 25% citizen of the citizen. There are still some programs existing which is not directly relevant to the main objectives of social welfare. There are some programs lacking for citizens who are at employable age and service providing. To them take very small portion of the welfare fund expenditure. Duration of social welfare programs are not clear and lack of coordinations to transfer to the following program. Social welfare framework is currently pretty high and generous, yet not influencing to reduce the poverty. In particular, a very food household with 5 family members, 2 adults and 3 children, which receives food stamp service, is getting assistance of 56,000 tugrik per month. This amount is equal to 9.6% of living expenses of poor household. This is 2-3 times lower comparing to the most of the countries around the world, 5-6 times lower comparing to Europe and some Central Asian countries. Therefore, there is great need to separate non-social welfare programs and target the existing programs more to the poor and vulnerable people. And lastly, goals of the reform social welfare protection in Mongolia. We have to coordinate the social welfare pension allowance with employment policy, to set conditions for the conditional cash transfer and increase the amount, to direct the pensions and the allowance to the target groups and consolidate some, to set a time frame for pensions and allowances to stop and change the types, and to improve the financial management coordination of social welfare and increase the sources. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. That's very, very good. Thank you. Clearly, a lot has been done, and there are lots of work in progress, and the reform agenda continues. Thank you very much for that very good sharing from you. My next question is to Madam Chat Lengchanchia from Cambodia. Ma'am, the Cambodian government launched the country's national social protection policy framework last year. I think that's really significant piece of work because it's a 10-year roadmap, isn't it? And this is also about harmonizing and strengthening existing schemes and also expand the social protection floor to provide coverage for all throughout the life cycle. Huge initiative. It is noteworthy that development of policy framework was spearheaded by the Ministry of Economy and Finance. So what role did the Ministry of Economy and Finance play in the development of the framework? And to galvanize stakeholders, because I'm sure there are so many different ministries to work with. And in relation to the implementation of the framework, that is the role of the National Social Protection Council, and how does Cambodia plan to increase its social protection coverage? Thank you so much. 7 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, moderators, for your important question, and good morning to distinguished delegations and all stakeholders here. My name is Chayas. I'm a Director of Legal Affairs Department of General Secretariat of National Social Protection Council in Cambodia. So, Ministry of Economy and Finance plays an important role in developing of National Social Protection Policy Framework since from the start. So the Ministry play a role as a lead ministry in order to gather all the stakeholders, all the line ministry to come together to sit on the round table and to find out the issue and how we can go together, by which way, and what should the best way for us. And then we are come up with the common sense and we create a thing called a working group. So the technical working group has been created in the years of 2015 and involving with DP, development partner as well, inside of the technical working group. And later that time, we are drafting we call National Social Protection, NSPPF in brief. Yeah, the framework has been drafted and we are put on the table to discuss together too many times. It took around 2 years to create that framework that we call the comprehensive framework. And also it is the only one guidance documents for social protection in Cambodia. Later, that times, 1 year later, we have created the National Social Protection Council, which chairs by our Deputy Prime Minister, who is the Ministers of Economy and Finance, and the honor chair is our Samdech Prime Minister. And the compositions of this National Social Protection Council is all the relevant line ministries as well as the DP or another stakeholder. In order to assist that National Social Protection Council, we have created an executive committee. An executive committee chaired by our Under Secretary of State, whose name is Madam Nguyen Sukha. And the composition of that executive committee is all the relevant line ministries and other stakeholders as well. Although it is not enough for us, we still create another body that we call a General Secretariat for National Social Protection Council. And I am the directors of the Legal Affairs Departments of that General Secretary of the National Social Protection Council. Yes, so you can see those important roles of our Ministries of Economy and Finance playing in this framework. Another question that related to how could Cambodia extend the coverage on social protection. Actually, when we talk about social protection, it is new in Cambodia. But previously, we don't use the word social protection, but it is existing under the program. And it is a fragmented program run and implemented by DP, by other line ministry. For example, we call school feeding program, have been run by the World Food Program organizations, and another program run by a line ministry such as Work in Jewelry, health insurance has been run and implemented by National Social Security Fund under the technical controls of Ministries of Labor. So it's not new, but later time, based on the guidance of our rectangular strategy phase 3, showing about the harmonizations, the consistency, the effectiveness of the social protection in Cambodia. So we start to thinking how to harmonize that fragmented program or schemes to come together and to put into the social protection of the Cambodia as a whole, to put into the national level. Yeah. And at the time we are drafting a new law that we call the umbrella law. The exact name is Social Protection Law. And the Social Protection Law is the second guidance document that we can use as guidance. And inside of the Social Protection Law have been deal with 4 issues. The first issue is about the harmonization of all operators into one single operator. Cambodia, we will plan to have only 2 single operators. The first single operator is about the single operator for Social Security. The second single operator is this operator for social assistance. And now we are done with the first single operator that has been implemented by National Social Security Fund under the technical control of Ministries of Labor and the other financial control under the Ministries of Economic and Finances. And recently, the Ministries of Labor have been drafting a new draft law on Social Security Fund. And inside of the new draft law on Social Security Fund, they are clearly stated about the coverage of the group people who will benefit from the scheme. And also, they are mentioned about the 4 schemes of Social Security Fund, such as the work injury scheme, second, about the health scheme, and third is about the pension scheme, and the fourth is about the unemployed schemes. And previously, we have already done the 2 schemes, health schemes and work injury. And right now, as the strong commitment and the promise from our Samdai Prime Minister on the launchings of the new pension scheme in Cambodia in the next year, in the years of 2019. So we are working quite hard to draft this law and make this law to put to the National Assembly for the adoptions next year. And hopefully, early next year, we can have a new law on Social Security Fund which covers the pension scheme. And I am glad to see all the people in Cambodia, especially the formal sector in Cambodia, gonna have the pension schemes, including me. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. That is really, really good to see that you have moved on from what you call fragmentation to consolidation with strong policy framework in terms of law, which you expect to have adopted next year. Congratulations in advance, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of work to support the implementation in the years to come. But you already have the roadmap for 10 years. So I think that's really foresight to look at it comprehensively with the proper timeline. You can't do this kind of thing in a few years. You put 10 years timeline in place. Thank you for your contribution. Moving on, Dr. Pandup Shering from Bhutan. Next, Dr. Shering, the public health care scheme of Bhutan has successfully enabled the country to provide health care to more than 90% of the population. That's pretty good. And also to keep the out-of-pocket health expenditures relatively low. Could you share with us the key milestones for the development of the public health care scheme and also the key challenges the government is facing in the implementation of this scheme and how you then overcome some of these challenges? Thank you so much. 7 minutes. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you, Madam. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share our health service delivery system, which definitely has contributed to our social protection in Bhutan. Now, to begin with, I think let me start with our history of health system in Bhutan. I think the plant development as well as the this modern healthcare system, I think it was introduced in Bhutan much later than in many countries in the region. We started our plant development as well as the modern healthcare system in the early 60s. So initially when we started this plant development, I think from that time only, I think the people's concerns, like, or it was the development plans were based on, it was people-centric. So even like, for example, health system, I think when we started the first plant development for health, I think it started with government assuming full responsibility for the healthcare needs of the people. So that has continued till now. Even after the democracy came into the country, I think we are still continuing with this free health care system in the country. And also now it's become a constitutional mandate, is enshrined in the constitution that government should provide free health care to all its population. So when we talk of free health care, we are talking of free health care in each level. So whatever services we provide in the country, we provide free, including when patients are very serious, we also refer them to countries outside, mainly to India or to Thailand. And there also government pays for all the expenses, including renal transplant and all these things. And also we also provide emergency transportations for helicopter services, ambulance services, free of charge. So, and also we also develop our policy based on our philosophy of gross national happiness. So this, all our policies are screened as per the GNS tool. And so this GNS philosophy is actually people-centered, holistic, participatory, and also it focuses on balanced development. So as of now, government is assuming full responsibility of the healthcare needs of the people. And private sector involvement is very limited. I think only last couple of years we have few diagnostic centers and private pharmacies. And also I think it's important to understand that how you deliver the healthcare delivery system. We deliver it through the three-tiered health delivery system. And we also, from the beginning, we have always approached through primary healthcare approach, focusing more on prevention and health promotion and disease prevention, as well as on the principles of universal health coverage. And also we have this integrated health system where we are integrating both traditional medicine as well as modern medicine. So that gives an opportunity for the people to opt whether they want to go for the traditional or the private, modern medicine. And some of the achievement that we have made is, I think as of now, I think we have achieved 94.6% coverage of the population covered with basic healthcare services. And we have been able to maintain out-of-pocket expenditure to less than 12%. I think that is very low compared to other regional countries as well as global targets. And also with this primary healthcare approach and universal health coverage, we have been able to achieve many of the public health milestones like eradication of polio, measles, leprosy, and we have been able to maintain high coverage of rural sanitation. We have reduced infant mortality rate, under 5 mortality, maternal mortality, increased institutional delivery, and increased contraceptive prevalence rates. However, there are challenges with this kind of free healthcare system. One challenge I think we face is the sustainability of this free healthcare system. And also other is the demand from the people, always demanding for high-end, more advanced treatment. And of course, we also have now emerging challenges, the non-communicable disease, diabetes, hypertension, and road traffic accident, cancers. I think there the treatment cost is more higher than those for these communicable diseases. And of course, now people are also challenging us on the quality of healthcare services. And we also have a challenge of people now with these communication facilities improved and all that, better road network. So people try to bypass our lower health centers and try to go at the higher centers to get better facilities because they always have a feeling that, okay, if you go to the higher center, the services are better. And of course, we also have now emerging social issues like adolescents, elderly, and Of course, we also have put in some interventions, now, especially for this sustainability, which is, I think, concern for us. We have established this Bhutan Health Trust Fund. Now, this is established under our royal charter of our fourth king. So, as per the Bhutan Health Trust Fund, the Bhutan Health Trust Fund is supposed to finance all our essential medicines and vaccines. So, till now, it has been financing, and how they usually do through fund mobilization. I mean, this independent body, so they do fund mobilization. They go to other countries, get support, and a donation comes through individuals, organizations, and all that. So whatever this fund, somebody gives fund to this health trust fund, then government, it is, as per the charter, the government has to put the same amount into the fund. So that way that fund increases. And till now, I think it has been trying to sustain our, basically our, the annual cost of drugs and vaccines. And of course, still now, we are still focusing on strengthening our prevention and health promotion activities. Now we are looking at more at multi-sectoral approach, because I think the health challenges are changing. So accordingly, we are trying to have because now social issues are coming up more. So we are looking at more at multi-sectoral approach. And also like more on prevention and promotion, health promotion. Like for example, we have, I think, established outdoor gyms in all the districts and municipalities to encourage people to do physical activity. We have also developed some multi-stakeholder strategies, like alcohol harm reduction strategy, non-communicable disease action plans and all that. And also we are looking at possibility of putting in place a health in all policies that I think improve multi-sectoral participation. And other thing is, I think it's also important for us to have the service standardization, Of course now, and also now we have this more than 5%, 5.4% of the unreached population. When you talk of unreached population, I think we are looking at those people in far hard to reach geographical areas, the people with disabilities, and also elderly populations. So in our next 5-year plan, I think 2-year 5-year plan we just started. So our focus will be on these hard to reach populations, basically remote areas, people with disability, elderly care. And also we are trying to establish, we are almost establishing the health centers more caring towards victims of domestic violence and child abuse. And one thing we are looking at is that how to prevent this gatekeeping, now bypassing the health centers from the lower health center to the upper health center. So we are now institutionalizing, putting in place this electronic patient information system. So we thought maybe that will help us to see that, of course, if somebody comes to a higher center, I think it's their right to avail the services. But as far as possible, we don't want them to duplicate. Now what happens is that I think they go to a lower health center, they consult some doctors, and they get treatment, and they're not happy, and immediately they go to a higher health center. But at least that self-referral and all that, we're trying to hope that this will help us to reduce that. Basically, I think if you want to have this kind of health system, but I don't say that our health system is the best, because of course in the region, I think many countries have better health system than ours. But I think it all depends on economy and also the availability of resources and all that. But for Bhutan, I think still this is a system which we think we should continue. And one important thing is, I think, to have such a free healthcare system, I think government commitment is very important. And also you should have, I think, a strong health system, like functioning and strong health system. Because now, of course, we try to monitor that health system by, just to give an example, we ensure that 95% of the medicines are available in all the health centers at any point of time. 90% of the equipment in all the health centers are functioning, availability of human resource. So these are actually things we do monitoring regularly. So this, I think, enables us to ensure that our health system is functioning. These are just few examples. And also, maybe it is also important to have, have a health system which is based on the needs of the population. So
thank you so much. Thank you so much. Clearly, your universal primary health coverage is doing well, and then of course you also recognize the emerging issues, the new challenges, and most important is to reach those who are difficult to reach as going forward. Thank you, Dr. Pandop. Next question to Ms. Vivi, last but not the least, ma'am. We understand that the Indonesian government has been very committed to ensuring that its social assistance programs reach those who need the financial support the most. To this end, Indonesia has introduced large programs that, and have taken measures to extend coverage, for example, with its unified database for social protection programs. Nonetheless, we understand that there are still gaps in social protection coverage. So what are the main challenges to overcome these gaps? And also, what's the way forward to extend the coverage along the social protection floors in Indonesia? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Very good morning to distinguished delegates and also the stakeholder. Actually, the unified database is an electronic data system, contains of the 40% lowest income group by name, by address, including around 44 parameters, like the quality of their housing, assets, as well as level of education. The UDB now moves toward the social registry information system, which link to the civil registry as well as the social health insurance database. Along the line, we now on the progress developing one-stop service at the local level, which function to update any changes and also fix the exclusion error. The OSS also has a complaint management mechanism and do referral to local programs. By having this unified database, we could build a comprehensive social protection. In Indonesia, there are two pillars. One is the social security, and social security has 5 programs, including health insurance and labors. The other pillar is about the social assistance, which now move forward to the family transfer. There are 2 other big strategy for poverty reduction is on the basic services as well as sustainable livelihood. The main challenge mainly is accessing population due to geographical barriers and remoteness is partly a challenge. Because we also have to deal with the language barrier, culture norms and practice, as well as gender. They are partly the ones who live in remote places and islands, because we are 17,000 islands. It cannot be done by business as usual programs, so there are more and more exploration toward the way in the delivery of the transfer. Besides the poorest, how to deal with the poorest, we have to deal with the vulnerable groups. These are the ones who live between the poverty line till to 1.5 poverty lines. They are the ones who have some risk, including during extended sick, loss of job, food price hikes, and also in the natural disaster. Our health insurance scheme actually still have a missing middle problem due to high informality. These conditions have implication of how the social protection need to be designed. So we have to deal from the framework to the delivery challenges. Converging the design of the social protection programs require more coordinations and engagement, because we have decentralization. So we have to deal with the bureaucratic structure, unclear definition of roles, inadequate commitment, as well as communications. Comprehensive social protection also requires reform, including in financing. So since 2015 till 2018, there have been a significant subsidy reform from 3.5% to now 0.8% of GDP. It has been allocated to the social protection programs like premium for national health insurance for the poor, so fee waiver, and expanding the social assistance. The latest figure, our proportion of budget for the social protection account for 1.14% out of our GDP. In the expansion of the social assistance, we try to focus a family-based transfer. Through the conditional cash transfer, we want to improve the changing behavior, mindset of the poor. So the next generation, by improving health and education, we could break the vicious circle of the poverty. Applying family-based transfer through conditional cash transfer also is one way to converge basic needs. Since 2016, we include the conditional for the disabled and also elderly. So by having them put into the conditional, we have a better data on the condition of the disability that can be used by the supply side to improve more inclusive schools and several others. The way forward, the utilization of the UDB need to be expanded to other programs including productive economy, housing, as well as electricity and energy. We are now thinking on also about adaptive social protection, how to improve the resilience of the household, family, to face any shock, including natural disaster. This includes strengthening the financial inclusion of the poor and the vulnerability, and improve the economic capabilities by providing vocational training, facilitation in businesses. We also want to promote inclusion, expand the access, realizing the formal rights. For example, by having thematic meeting for persons with disability in planning forums may give us a new perspective. For example, we could think that, walking is not always by feet, for example, or seeing is not always by eyes. Providing access, exploring devices, technology, and applying universal principles in all public infrastructures really open opportunity for persons with disability to more participate and become more productive. So, from my point of view, as social protection is about building a capacity of managing a risk along a life cycle. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. I think clearly you brought to this room a lot of experience around the family-focused approach, in a way, how to build resilience, how to look at poverty at the household level, and then based on the work that had a lot of emphasis on health and education, but how to move beyond so that the family capacity to be part of broader socio-economic development is enhanced. I think that's a very interesting approach, and clearly lots of thoughts had been put into this process and system already. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have heard from 4 panelists. I'm sure you have questions, so put your questions on hold for the time being, because we'll go through the second question first and then come back to the questions after that. But a few points that I take forward from what I have listened this morning. I think the countries have really made huge efforts to enhance protection. So every country has made good progress, had many concrete examples to show to us that yes, it can be done. But at the end of the day, more must be done. So therefore, the reforms agenda continues. The reform agendas that had to look at the policy dimension, that has to look at the legal framework, the reform agenda that had to look at coordination is so important. But equally important is the issue of the budget, where the money is going to come from, and how to expand the coverage to the different target groups, particularly those who are vulnerable, those who have to be supported to deal with fragility in their different contexts, either employment or aging, or because they are difficult to reach due to geography. So clearly there are lots of work to be done. While huge progress have been made already, the challenges remain for countries to move forward the social protection agenda. My second question, panelists, get ready. I think this time I'm going to reverse the order starting from this end. The second question is around the regional cooperation. Now that you have shared with us lots of good thoughts from the country perspective, but from the regional perspective, how can we enhance regional cooperation that could support the work at the country level better? The regional cooperation, of course, to begin with, among us, the UN system in the room, but not limited to us. There are many other players in the field of social protection as well. So the regional cooperation that could contribute to stronger implementation of social protection, particularly around the SDG agenda, particularly the SDG target 1.3, which is around enhancing the implementation of social protection flows. So we'd like to hear your thoughts, what would be some of the areas of work and how we can work together at the regional level that could support your work at the country level. As I said, that I'd like to reorder the sequence, so we start from Ms. Yulaswati from Indonesia, please, ma'am.
Okay. Since yesterday, I think we are talking about knowledge sharing or peer-to-peer learning. So I'm thinking maybe this kind of exercise could go further with the technical level, how to link the operationalizations of some related framework. For example, we talk about the ancient strategy, UNCRPD, and the SDGs. Maybe we could further elaborating the gaps in indicators and develop a method how to measure the progress and evaluate the impact. I think those are really useful experience and also really willing to learn more. Maybe the other thing is about identify accelerator program or program that can accelerate how to close the gap of many SDGs target from best practices for sure, but maybe we should think about key criteria. So I'm thinking something like best practice that provide clear steps or business process, provide positive impact, and also have some principles on sustainability, particularly adapting by local stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Pandop, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, madam. I think we had lots of panel discussions yesterday and today. And through this panel discussion, I think it gave an opportunity for us to learn a lot from experiences in other countries. So I think what the UN can do, and UNESCAP can do, is I think it is very important to share these good practices in different countries and also identify gaps in other countries. So, because I think we are in, the countries in the region are in, I think we are in different levels of economic development. Resource availability are also different. I think also the health system and also the government system are functioning are different in different countries. So maybe it will be good if can look at the different social protection mechanism in different countries in the region and let them share their experiences and maybe encourage the countries to adapt the best practices. I think maybe that will be, and also I think it's also important to look at the gaps of each countries. And also for Bhutan, I think we are also now, we have aligned our next 5-year plan with the SDGs. I think that gives an opportunity, better opportunity for us to fulfill our, the SDG agendas. So maybe we can also look at aligning the SDG agenda with the government plans, encourage the countries, help countries to align their SDG agenda with the government plans. That's what we have done for the 12th 5-year plan. And of course, if you become like very country specific, basically, I think for Bhutan, I think we have benefited a lot, especially with support from UN agencies like WHO, UNICEF, and UNFPA and all that. I think their support will continue. So whatever support they are giving, I think, and we have also been taking note of their, their way of cooperation with the countries. So for Bhutan, like I think one area we can really look at is how to sustain our free healthcare system. So maybe in such areas, if some expertise can help us to look into that, so we'll be welcoming that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on, ma'am, please. Ms. Ling Chanchia from Cambodia, go ahead.
Thank you, Moderator, for your question regarding to the regional cooperations, in order to go to the closing social protection in the regions. In my personal point of view, I would propose to have or to establish a regional platform or a technical group that we can meet on biannual or on annual basis. And based on that regional sharing platform or the group could develop an inventory on social protections in order to share the skill, the expertise, the knowledge to each other and the country that experience the same or similar issue, they can take advantage and they can learn from each other. And also, Cambodia in the well positioned of creating M&E monitoring and evaluation systems on social protections. So Cambodia would contribute well to this regional sharing platform, and hopefully we can move together, we can work together, and we can go close to the social protection in the regions. We are happy together, and we can protect our people. We can give a smile to our region people. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Kansasek from Mongolia, please go ahead.
Thank you. We know in April 2009, the UN SHIP Executive Board adopted the social protection on floor. Initiative is one of the responses to the global financial crisis. A social protection floor aims to provide a universal minimum level of social benefits and service, guaranteeing at least access to essential health care services, including education, care, and nutrition for children. I believe that all the countries, especially UNCC, East Asian countries, those have ratified to the UN's SDG and SP on the floor, initiative shall conduct a common standard assessment for its strategic areas on define the radical social floor to each country as the first step. Secondly, international organizations need to integrate its effort to conduct such assessment for all participant countries, having the national dialogues organized between the all relevant internet stakeholders. And thirdly, this common framework conducting SP on floor assessment shall also to be developed with its cost projection tools. Lastly, all of the results identified on the basis of SPF on floor assessment shall also be reflected in the long-term and medium-term development goals and assessment methodologies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. So I think that's quite a long list, but I think if I take the liberty to kind of synthesize a little bit, Then be a few areas of work that we could explore at the regional level. One is around knowledge sharing in different aspects of social protection, ongoing work around good practice, around gaps, around monitoring the SDG indicators, around monitoring and reviewing the flaws where things do stand vis-a-vis the flaws, social protection flaws at the country level. I think there is also important of making sure that technical expertise that has been provided can be continued for different countries as per the need. And the last point that is quite important, I think, is around accelerating the implementation to close the gaps. And I think this is important in relation to SDG alignments that Dr. Pandop talked about. Because I think when we talk about social protection, we have to think that the SDG are not really going to be operated in isolation. The SDG on social protection is linked to many other SDGs when the country works on the national implementation of the SDG. Therefore, SDG alignment, including some accelerator for the success, to move the work forward is important in that regard. So thank you very much for all your inputs and guidance this morning. I think we enjoy listening to your stories coming from different countries, different perspectives. Now, audience in the room, you do have 20 minutes, yeah? 20 minutes. So please, who would like to raise questions to the panelists or offer additional suggestion? The Philippines, you're from the Philippines. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just would like to ask the panelists from 3 countries, Mongolia, Bhutan, and Indonesia. How do you define in your country, because under the target 1.3, by 2030, there should be already a substantial coverage of the poor and the vulnerable. So the targets are 2 sets of groups of people, the poor and the vulnerable. What is the substantial coverage in each country? Because Bhutan has said that's in universal coverage of health, they're moving towards increasing 94%. So how does we define the substantial coverage by 2030 of this social protection implementation? And the problem is, what is the appropriate social protection mechanism for each country? Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. We can have one more question before we ask the panelists to respond. Are there any more? If not, panelists, go ahead to begin with Mongolia, Cambodia, Indonesia. Go ahead if you would like to share your thoughts on the question from the delegate from the Philippines. Thank you.
Thank you, sirs, for your important question regarding to the extensions of coverage to the poor people. In Cambodia, we use the Health Equity Fund, and Health Equity Fund has been funded by the royal government of Cambodia as well as the DP. And from the start, IDPO has been extended to, Health Equity Fund has been extended to IDPO people or post-IDPO people. And right now, we have extended the Health Equity Fund not only to the IDPO or the post-IDPO people, but also to a group of vulnerable people, such as the professional athlete, around 1,000 professional athletes, and the chief of commune and provincial chief, with the numbers of 57,000 people. And also to the we call it tricycle drivers, yeah, and also to the employer, pregnant women, to the pregnant women in the informal sector as well. And we use the cash best that we call cash transfers, delivered directly to the pregnant woman every time she gives the birth to a baby. And we give for around $100 for one baby. If she give a birth to a baby, she can entitled to get $200, and if 3 babies, she entitled to get $300. And as the commitment from our Somdai Prime Minister in the years of 2019, we are planning to give cash transfers to pregnant women and children under the age of 2 years. So we are gradually extend our health equity fund. We don't extend to every poor people or every vulnerable people in Cambodia, but we extend gradually, step by step, because the budget is limited, and also we have another scheme to cover them, such as the social security scheme. And we take care of the pregnant woman from the time she get the pregnancy, and we encourage her to check up her health frequently, and she entitled to get a cash every time to go to check up the health until she give a birth to a baby and the baby reach the age of 2 years. So along that time, she entitled to get the cash transfers. So that is how we extend the health equity fund in Cambodia. Another thing is about the expansions of a social security fund in Cambodia. Right now, National Social Security Fund is drafting or revising a new law on social security, and inside of that law, as I mentioned earlier, it's mentioned clearly about the 4 schemes. The first scheme is about work injury. Second thing is about health injury. The third scheme is about pension scheme, and another fourth is unemployed scheme. So based on the first scheme of social security fund, we can cover both formal and informal sector as well. Yeah, so that is the way Cambodia is moving to close the social protection gap. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you for your question. In Mongolia, we have many social protection program for poor people. There are social welfare pension scheme, old pension, care allowances, and monetary allowance for emergency and livelihood support, allowance for pregnant women and mothers with infants, assistance and allowance for senior citizen, allowance for a mother with state medal. Mothers has too many children. For the under the 4 children, assistances and allowance for people with disability, subsidy for senior citizens with merit, also community-based welfare services, and nursing services we have. And the last one, a social development service, the food stamp, health insurance contribution, and etc. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very, very useful. Any more you wanted to add? Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to add something that not been said by previous speaker. In the context of Indonesia, we also built a roadmap which consists of the baseline and do some projection, as well as national action plan and the regional action plan, and the metadata. So we could monitor the progress of the coverage. Around 60% of the SDGs indicators are already in the planning document. Other part is optimizing resources. That's including strengthening the collaboration with the philanthropy, social enterprise, and also potential of Islamic finance, including zakat and infak, and expanding the partnership for the poor. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, Dr. Pandop, you have the microphone in front of you, actually. Thank you.
Let me also give my views what Bhutan is doing in terms of social security, especially for the different group of people. Now, I think we don't have much of these financial incentives, monetary incentives. But like, for example, whatever services we provide free healthcare, free education. I think that is provided to everybody. So without any discrimination, no. But especially to, like, for example, let's to take people with disability. Now, just to give an example, we try to provide assistive devices to all, whoever is need. They have equal opportunity for employment, equal opportunity for education. Then, and also we are now developing drafted the disability policy, and probably that will, I think, give an opportunity for more opportunity for us to take the way forward. Similarly, for elderly, we provide annual health checkup, especially for the elderly above 60 years of age. Then that we are going to expand. For a pregnant woman, we have now the previous government has increased this maternity leave from up to 6 months. That's mainly in the civil service and the corporate agencies. And also in terms of opportunity, I think women has equal opportunity in everything they do in terms of employment, education, and all that. But we have, like, for example, in the women tend to drop out after high school. I think the tertiary level of women taking up tertiary education is still low. Their participation in this parliamentary thing is still low. And also we have number of projects under his ministry, like, for example, for elderly, for people in the rural areas, landless and all that. Lots of, basically those are under his ministry's prerogative. I think these are the things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I can take one last question as per my watch. If there is anyone would like to make use of this time for one last question. No? Good? Always in good order, I suppose. So thank you so much. As the moderator of this session, I'd like to thank you, our distinguished panelists. I hope the audience in the room agree with me that the discussion has been quite rich within 1 hour. And I think we hear many good experience. I'm sure these are very good points that we can take forward in our work, and many good food for thought for all of us in this very important and challenging field of social protection, which is so central to the socio-economic development in our region. What we have heard today is clearly, it shows that we have really demonstrated that many countries actually do have strong political commitments to work in these important areas of work. And there are already many good progress. It shows that innovations and different way of thinking, different way of working are very important. Therefore, the reform agenda in all countries, I think going forward is very important contribution to make the work on social protection field making more significant progress in a shorter time frame. I think it's very important for us to keep in mind that we still have huge population who are not covered by social protection. And the commitment to leave no one behind is so central to the work that we are going to work together. It's so central to the work of the government at the country level. It's central to the work that we are committed to work together at the regional level. I believe that Asia-Pacific country can continue to make progress in this field in the year to come. From my side, from the ILO, the ILO will celebrate 100 years next year. We reach our centenary. We are a bit older than the UN overall. It's also the 100 years of work on social protection. You are invited to see the exhibition outside the room. But from the ILO side, we complete our 100 years. We are committed to continue to work in this field, along with all partners, the UN partners, and of course, our member states. So thank you everyone for this session. Thank you for your participation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, for well time management. Very much appreciate. I also thank you to the panelists for the interesting and informative discussion. I now open the floor for statement from the delegates. In order to enable participation from as many delegations as possible, and as a wide range of stakeholders, I seek to cooperation of the distinguished delegates to please limit your statements to no more than 5 minutes. Please provide written version of your statements to the Secretariat for uploading on the web page for this meeting. The first speaker on my list is the distinguished delegate of Russian Federation. Who has the floor, please?
Уважаемые коллеги, господин председатель, в 2014 году в Российской Федерации была принята государственная программа «Социальная поддержка граждан», целями которой являются создание условий для роста благосостояния граждан, получателей мер социальной поддержки и повышение доступности социального обслуживания населения. В результате, в том числе и тех мер, которые реализованы с помощью программы, численность населения с доходами ниже прожиточного минимума сократилась на 1,1 миллиона человек, с 21,1 миллиона человек до 20 миллионов человек. В 2018 году в программе были дополнительно сформулированы направления. Это прежде всего пособие на первого ребенка, новое пособие, которое действует с 1 января текущего года. Средний размер этого пособия сейчас составляет 11 тысяч рублей, приблизительно $165 США. И уже более 170 тысяч семей с начала года обратились за пособием, и около 150 тысяч семей его уже получают. Также программа охватывает мероприятия по поддержке граждан в виде материнского семейного капитала. Это тоже достаточно серьезные объемы финансирования, более 300 миллиардов рублей ежегодно, или около 4,4 миллиардов долларов США. В рамках новой подпрограммы «Старшее поколение» входит в госпрограмму «Социальная поддержка граждан», которая реализуется с 2017 года. Российская Федерация разрабатывает новые подходы к так называемому долговременному уходу за гражданами, которые заключаются в замещении стационарных технологий наиболее приближенными к проживанию граждан старшего поколения дома. Мы также продолжаем работу по улучшению социального обслуживания граждан пожилого возраста в социальных учреждениях. Так, в 2018 году в 19 субъектах Российской Федерации в соответствии с госпрограммой проводится завершение реконструкции либо строительства новых учреждений, и в 239 организациях социального обслуживания проводятся соответствующие ремонтные работы. Одной из приоритетных сфер государственной политики сегодня является обеспечение образованием лиц с инвалидностью и ограниченными возможностями здоровья. Доступность образования для таких лиц основывается в том числе на следующих механизмах. Вариативность форм образования. Дети с ОВЗ и инвалидностью могут учиться в специализированных школах, классах или в обычных школах. Адаптация образовательных программ под каждый тип ограничений и разработка электронных материалов. Решение вопросов кадрового обеспечения. Сегодня каждый педагог должен уметь работать с детьми с ОВЗ. Создание развитой сети консультативных центров для детей с ОВЗ и их родителей. Гибкость процесса обучения детей с ОВЗ, возможности пролонгации обучения, индивидуальные планы обучения, адаптация образовательных программ под конкретного ребенка. Благодаря подобным мерам охват детей общим образованием в России составляет 99,7%. Кроме того, в нашей стране запущен проект, направленный на вовлечение школьников, в том числе с ограниченными возможностями здоровья, в проблематику разных секторов экономики, включая профессиональную ориентацию. 2 раза в месяц тысячи российских школ одновременно подключаются к интернету и участвуют в едином открытом онлайн-уроке, на котором с детьми общаются ведущие работодатели страны. Позвольте им показать вам видеоролик по этому проекту. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you very much, distinguished delegate of Russian Federation and also the video. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished delegate of Sri Lanka. The floor is yours, please.
Good morning for all. Mr. Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. An overview: Sri Lanka's achievement in the area of social development and social protection surpass most developing countries. The country has made considerable progress on the sustainable development goals. It provides the most extensive social security coverage in South Asia. However, the performance in poverty reduction during the past decades has been modest. While challenges remain, particularly in improving the quality of education and health service as well as the income level of the poor and reducing regional disparity in social and economic outcomes, Sri Lanka accomplishments are remarkable. In Sri Lanka, pre-education services have been made available to the entire population. Free health system available to the entire population. There are other facilities made available by the government under different act of the parliament. Overall policy of the government is implementing specific social protection schemes for all the necessary segment of the society to improve their living condition and empowering them to contribute to the development of the country. Sri Lanka has made significant progress in reducing poverty over past decades. The poverty headcount ratio at the national level has declined from 22.7% in 2002 to 6.7% in 2013. Despite the above achievements, inequality and vulnerability remain issues of great concern. Generally, certain segments of the population like children, disadvantaged women, elders and disabled are vulnerable. The government mainly focused to ensure the well-being of these segments within the family through group specification intervention. In line with the above principle, major welfare and livelihood assistance programs have been implemented aiming at the above vulnerable groups to ensure inclusive growth where each and every individual of the country is able to enjoy an economic and social benefits. Main safety net programs, income support programs, Samurdhi, providing subsidiary and related benefits to the low-income household, about 1.4 million of household. Monthly allowance with more social benefits to the poor families with disabled persons. Elder allowance for 70 years poor old persons. Public assistance monthly allowance for high vulnerable low-income household, assistance for illness, for poor chronic ill persons, rehabilitation grants for micro business for vulnerable households, and also 3% national supplementary food programs for all pregnant and lactating mothers, nutrition allowance for all pregnant and lactating mothers below required body mass index, fresh milk for nursery children in low nutrition areas, providing livelihood and development programs for all vulnerable women to improve their economic status of the family. When talking about prevailing issues and existing social protection programs, first one, inclusion and exclusion errors. Difficult to identify the real income of beneficiaries, difficult to eligible person to enter the program, no clear exit mechanism to remove empowered families. Second, inefficient institutional framework. Third, unavailable of a proper social security system in the informal sector. When in women, low female labor participation, low participation in decision-making process, amount of women-headed households, and increase of incidence of violence against women. In elders, change in institute of traditional family support to elder people, formal social security system have limited coverage and inadequate benefits, inadequate generated health care, lack of opportunities to participate in productive economic activities, and all treatment of elders. In disabled people, low educational achievement, especially in tertiary education, less economic activities, higher rate in poverty, and inability to live independently participate in community activities. In summary, there are so many evidence that the social protection and social services program in Sri Lanka over the past few decades have contributed to the improvement of physical being of the population, particularly in the field of health and education. Nevertheless, more research is needed to access the contribution of social protection programs in enhancing psychological dimension of family well-being. Social protection programs are vital to promote growth while ensuring that the dividends of growth are shared more equal among population, and promoting such programs is one of the key challenges for Sri Lankan policymakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike, the distinguished delegate of Sri Lanka. The next speaker, I would like to invite the distinguished delegate of India. The floor is yours, please.
Principles of the highest possible level of health, where health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. In this direction, we have recently adopted the National Health Policy 2017 with the aim to provide affordable health care for all. This furthers the government's core belief of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. It means partnership with all and development for all. One of the most important steps that Government of India has taken to fulfill its commitment to improving maternal health and child survival is the articulation of a comprehensive approach and linking together a set of initiatives and strategies that address each life stage. As a step towards achieving universal health care coverage, the Government of India has announced Ayushman Bharat, National Health Protection Mission, which covers over 100 million poor and vulnerable families, providing coverage for secondary and tertiary care hospitalization. In the area of education, the Right to Education Act has established an effective legal framework entitling all children of 6 to 14 years of age to free and compulsory education based on principles of equity and non-discrimination. Similarly, the National Health Mission and the Integrated Child Development Services initiatives strive to provide access to primary health care and nutrition for the population, with a vision to build a society wherein members of the target groups can lead productive, safe, and dignified lives with all their basic needs being fulfilled, and where equal opportunities are ensured for their growth and development. The government, through various programs of educational, economic, and social development, aims at the empowerment of disadvantaged and marginalized sections of the society. As per the new law of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016, the government is mandated to formulate necessary schemes and programs to guarantee adequate standard of living, to enable persons with disabilities to live independently or in the community. In doing so, the quantum of assistance to the persons with disabilities shall be at least 25% higher than the similar schemes applicable to persons without disabilities. These schemes should provide for facilities for persons, including children with disabilities, who have no family or shelter or livelihood or have been abandoned. Support to women with disabilities for livelihood and for upbringing of their children. Access to safe drinking water and appropriate and accessible sanitation facilities, especially in urban slums and rural areas. Provisions of aids and appliances, corrective surgery free of cost, disability pension or unemployment allowance, comprehensive insurance scheme, etc. Mr. Chair, the government has recently formulated guidelines for setting up of rehabilitation homes for needy persons with disabilities by the provincial governments. Financial assistance is given to the provinces by the national government towards disability pensions for persons with disabilities. New legislation, being aware of a number of persons with disabilities are close to poverty levels and that their living costs are more than persons without disabilities, government is providing financial and non-financial support to them to offset their expenditure. Aids and appliances are being provided to various categories of persons with disabilities. Skill training is provided to increase their employability. Loan at concession rate is given to promote self-employment. To enhance livelihood security of poor households in rural areas, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act provides every year 100 days guaranteed unskilled manual work to every rural adult, including persons with disabilities, with an aim to alleviate poverty. Mr. Chair, challenges are many in this area of social protection to achieve sustainable development goals in terms of identification, organization, investment, and diversity in persons with disabilities across age, gender, and socio-economic status. India is grappling with these issues. There are various methods and strategies being planned through IT, financial management and human resources to strengthen social protection so as to include all persons with disabilities with focus mainly on those who are at risk. India is therefore committed to ensure that no one is left behind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the distinguished delegate of India. The next speaker, I would like to invite the distinguished delegate of Democratic People's Republic of Korea. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates. On behalf of the delegation of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, I would like first of all to congratulate you on your election as the chairman of this session. I am convinced that this meeting will be fruitful under your seasoned chairmanship. Mr. Chair, my delegation would like to touch upon some measures that have been taken by the government for strengthening social protection in the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The DPRK government, guided by the Juche idea centered upon the people, set up a goal to further improve the well-being of the people and strives to ensure that the people fulfill their role as independent and creative human beings. The laws and policies of DPRK stipulate that the state takes full responsibility of taking care of its people's life and health. 5-year strategic plan for health sector development, DPRK, 2016 to 2020, is being carried out to achieve the goals set by the National 5-year Strategic Plan for Economic Development. The third plenary meeting of the 7th Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea set forth tasks to build a country of education and a country of talent. We endeavor to achieve SDG 4.4 through modernization of education facilities and improvement of quality of education. The DPRK executes a policy of ending all forms of discrimination against women and provides legal guarantee for equal rights and freedom. We presented to UN the implementation report of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women in 2016, which was reviewed in November 2017. Relevant government agencies are now having consultations on recommendations. The 12-year free compulsory education is provided for all adolescents and young people in the country. The social atmosphere is conducive to the protection of young people, and the Foundation Day of Children's Union and Youth Day are celebrated. Educational facilities and public organizations at all levels have a youth league and a women's union with strengthened moral education. In addition, violence against or abuse of children, adolescents, and young people is illegal and considered a crime. Legal guarantee for social protection of the elderly is ensured by adoption of the DPRK law on the care of the aged in 2007. The Central Committee of the Korean Federation for Care of the Aged, KFCA, was formed as a standing mechanism. For the implementation of the Strategic Plan 2015 to 2018, diverse activities are conducted for improved mental and physical health and happier life of the elderly through providing social insurance, medical care service, assistance to elderly homes and elderly people without primary caregivers. KFCA is planning to develop new strategic plan 2019 to 2025 on the basis of the assessment of the current strategy implementation, especially to achieve the goals of a decade of healthy aging 2020 to 2030 proposed by WHO that seeks to provide mental, social, and physical well-being in close cooperation with the Ministry of Public Health and other institutions of care for the elderly. In conclusion, Mr. Chair, the government and people of DPRK are committed to achieving the goal of National 5-year Strategy for Economic Development, just to ensure the strengthening of social protection in the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, the distinguished delegate of Democratic People's Republic of Korea. The next speaker, I would like to invite the distinguished delegate of Bangladesh. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. In the context of Bangladesh, a vision on social welfare is to build better life and caring society. To implementing the vision, various types of programs to reduce inequality in the different sectors in the society and empowerment of disadvantaged segments, especially for women and marginalized peoples of Bangladesh. To develop or strengthen social protection system, government implementing different programs under social safety net programs like old age allowances, widows allowances, and allowances for persons with disabilities. The country has also undertaken multidimensional and intensive programs for the welfare of the disadvantaged segment, unemployed, landless, orphans, distressed, migrants, homeless, socially, intellectually, and physically challenged, and neurodevelopmental challenged. Besides this, poor and helpless patients, children at risk of both rural and urban areas have been undertaken and for special consideration. Ministry of Social Welfare and the departments and agencies affiliated with it have been implementing multi-purpose activities to implement of the ICPD, APMD in the context of the 2030 agenda. Different policies and activities are taken to build a strong social protection system for older persons and persons with disabilities and their vulnerabilities to the poverty as follows. The Children Act 2013 specially considered the development, protection and care of the disabled children, the rights and protections of PWDs Act 2013, the Protection of Neurodevelopmental Disability Trust Act 2013, Parental Supervision Act 2013, Elderly Policy 2013, the National Policy on Disability 1995, the National Action Plan on Disability 2006. Different allowances and financial aids are provided as old age allowance, allowances for the widow and husband deserted women, allowances for the insolvent persons with disabilities, and many other like these. We are implementing some poverty reduction programs like rural social service through microfinance, rural mother center through microfinance, rehabilitation for acid burn and PWDs, urban community development. Some child protection and development program like government orphanage, that is child home, baby home, daycare center are implemented in the country. Some ongoing programs on the protection and development for the persons with disabilities, including autism, are disability detection survey, training and rehabilitation of PWDs, integrated education for visually impaired, social schools for the children with autism, hostels for the working people with disabilities for male and female, Autism Resource Center for addressing the development disorder, National Disability Complex and Disability Sports Complex, Disabled Children Home, National Social Security Strategies, and some other initiatives for PWDs are in progress. Some social safety net programs initiated in fiscal year 2009-2010, coverage of financial assistance for the beneficiary in number as well as budget have been gradually increasing from 52% to 425% for different beneficiary groups. In light of the special needs of the person with disabilities, efforts are being made to integrate them into the mainstream of the society as skilled manpower by providing accommodation, education, and training under special management and supplying them assistive devices. Although we have a strong political commitment for social protection, still there are some challenges to address and much more to do. Mr. Chair, in conclusion, I would like to mention that in line with the strategies for the strengthening social protection in the implementation of 2030 agenda, Bangladesh have taken all the action plan to eradicate poverty, aligning with 7 5-year plan, Vision 2021 and SDGs. where all the disadvantaged, marginalized, and backward people have been included. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished delegate of Bangladesh. The next speaker, I would like to invite the distinguished delegate of Bhutan. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to share some snapshot of Bhutan's story on developing inclusive social protection through a predominantly public health system driven by the primary healthcare approach and universal health coverage. Bhutan, under the wise leadership of our successive monarchs and the values which continue in the post-democracy era by the elected government, has prioritized public policy with people at the core of development. Fundamental to the approach is the concept of gross national happiness. All public policies in Bhutan are screened using GNS screening tool, which seek to address a more meaningful purpose of development that goes beyond the fulfillment of material satisfaction. Holistic, people-centered, participatory, and balanced development, including a balance between material and spiritual development, forms the core essence of this paradigm. The framework of health system in Bhutan is embedded in this overarching development paradigm. As a constitutional obligation, the royal government is mandated to provide free access to public health services in both modern and traditional medicine. The health system in Bhutan was founded in the context of a government assuming responsibility for the development and healthcare needs of the population. It evolved as a welfare-driven system, universally in design with public financing and delivered free of charge at the point of use. The health system is predominantly public. Out-of-pocket expenditure for health remains low, 12% by regional and global comparison, and the role of private sector in health is limited, insignificant, and is a fairly new phenomenon. Such overwhelming presence of the government in healthcare then and now represents the fundamental strength of the Bhutanese health system. It is important to highlight the role of primary healthcare approach which Bhutan pursued consciously. The PSC approach provided constant reminder to invest in prevention and multi-sectoral mechanism and thereby promoted resource prudence. This proved critical amidst the backdrop of human resource constraints and medical supplies dependency that continue to be the primary health system vulnerabilities in Bhutan. With primary healthcare approach as the crucial bedrock of the national health system, Bhutan has made dramatic progress in improving the health status of its people. Significant achievement in population health outcomes have been recorded. We have already mainstreamed the SDGs into our programs and plans, including the 12-5-year plan, which was recently drafted. Considerable challenges, however, remain. Communicable diseases continue to prevail, while non-communicable diseases have already made inroads. Spiking national health care costs, globalization, and climate change are other issues of significant concern. On the universal health coverage front, while we have universal population enrollment and relatively well-established financial protection mechanism, the effective coverage of quality services and largely work in progress. We need to standardize our benefit packages, put in place quality improvement measures, broaden the role of non-state actors, and rethink our health financing framework to make it more sustainable. As we advance universal health coverage, we are confident that our pathways are firmly established. However, we are acutely aware of our limitations. In line with our national goals and the principles of GNS, Bhutan remains committed to accelerate progress towards universal health coverage to ensure that all people, regardless of socio-economics, gender, ethnicity, or age, can access quality health care and financial protection. I thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the distinguished delegate of Bhutan. The next presentation, I would like to invite the distinguished delegate of Cambodia. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Cambodia has adopted a national social protection policy framework for 2016-2025 with two main pillars: social assistance program and social security system. Social assistance program focuses on emergency response, human capital development, vocational training, and social welfare of vulnerable people, while social security system concentrates on work injury, health insurance, pension, the unemployed, and health equity funds. Under this social assistance pillar, Cambodia has introduced cash transfer program for pregnant women and children under 2 years, school feeding program, primary and secondary education, various skill training programs, and elderly and disability. Under the social security system pillar, Cambodia has expanded coverage gradually, not only to poor peoples, remote drivers, athletes, but also to other groups of vulnerable people. Despite the progress made, challenges remain. To address the challenges, the Royal Government of Cambodia is focusing on the following strategic measures to expand the relevant schemes to informal sector, start up the pension scheme starting from 2019, identify the target population group for receiving health equity funds, prepare budget for expanding the coverage, provide cash transfers for pregnant women and children, strengthen human resource capacities on the management and financing, enact a national scholarship policy to put in place a suitable management mechanism to provide scholarship, provide cash transfers for people with disability, support elderly people living in poor households, and introduce family package for elderly together with cash transfer program for pregnant women and children. I thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of Cambodia. I think still we have been requested by the distinguished delegate of Australia to intervene on the item 2 that we already passed yesterday. But since we have time, and after discussion with the Secretariat, we permit the distinguished delegate of Australia to intervene on the item 2. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to talk on an item from yesterday. Mr. Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Australia is committed to ensuring that no one is left behind from the 2030 Agenda. At the same time, we recognise that not every development actor can achieve all things for all people. Acknowledging this reality up front is less harmful than simply assuming that our interventions will trickle down to all marginalised groups without any deliberate effort on our part. Australia has learned this lesson from experience. Our progress with the Leaving No One Behind agenda is real, particularly in regards to gender equality and disability inclusion, but our challenges remain. For example, gender equality and women's empowerment are at the centre of Australia's foreign policy, economic diplomacy and overseas aid program. We've learned that retrofitting gender equality is difficult. Initiatives that intend from the outset to promote gender equality are far more successful. Effective interventions respond to existing power structures and complex influences and pick the right partners. Government, civil society organisations, private sector or religious organisations can all play a role in advancing gender equality. Australia is also a leading provider of disability inclusive development assistance. Australia supports disability-focused aid investments as well as mainstreaming activities that include people with disabilities as participants. We seek to check our assumptions that our investments will automatically reach women and girls and people living with a disability without any specific effort on our part. Likewise, we are concerned that the assumption that a focus on ethnic minorities will trickle down to Indigenous people too. Indigenous peoples comprise 5% of the global population, but 15% of the world's poor. They are at heightened risk of being left behind due to systematic disadvantage and the political choices of governments. Many development agencies are focusing upon Indigenous peoples, but individual action is not sufficient. Indigenous people will be left behind unless development actors take individual as well as collective actions. Australia is not professing to be a leader in regards to Indigenous issues. We're keen to have this conversation. and in partnership with actors across the international system, we are committed to ensuring that no one is left behind. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, the distinguished delegate of Australia. Since we don't have any list of speakers from the government, from the country state, and also we still have time, I would like to take the opportunity to invite any UN agency who would like to take the floor or give the intervention on the item 3. Yeah, I see none. So we would also like to give the opportunity to the civil society organization who wish to deliver the statement. Please do so. I also see none. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, there are no more speakers on my list this morning. Delegation wishing to make a statement in the afternoon, beginning at 2 p.m., are kindly requested to register with the conference officer and to provide them with a copy of statement. I would like to invite the Secretariat to make an announcement, please.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to cordially invite you to the side event entitled Closing the Gaps, Social Protection and Poverty in Asia and the Pacific. This side event is jointly organized by ESCAP and ILO. It will include 3 TED Talks on poverty lines, the history of social protection, and the path towards universal health coverage in Thailand. The side event will start at 12 noon in conference room 4, 1 floor down, and will be followed by a lunch buffet. We would also like to invite you to 2 exhibitions related to this side event outside conference room 4. The photo exhibition by artist Stefan Chow focuses on poverty lines, and the second exhibition illustrates 100 years of social protection at the ILO. Thank you, Chair.
I thank the Secretariat. The meeting is adjourned and will reconvene at 2 p.m. Okay.